Brothers and sisters and friends, it's wonderful to be with you today, to have an opportunity to speak and discuss some things pertaining to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My name is Tom Holton. This is the Latter-day Light on a Hill channel, and we are pleased to discuss the history and the doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, both in Ireland and throughout the world. I love the history of this church, this rich church, and I really want to focus today on why the word challenge is appropriate when it comes to the church. So two elements of that: why and in what sense is the church opposed or challenged from various quarters, both internally and externally. Why has the church historically, and including up to today, why does it receive persecution, opposition, notoriety? Why are there many interested in the church, and why are there some who are opposed to it, including many from within its own ranks, or many that used to be members of the church? So that's that one aspect of it. Why is the church so opposed? And secondly, this idea of challenge within the church. What does the church challenge us to do, to become, as individuals, as families, as people? So let's talk about the first one first, which is this idea of challenge. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a history of doing great things, but it also has a history of being opposed, being persecuted, being attacked and vilified in various ways. And as I've reflected on that, I've thought of the many reasons for that, and there are a great deal of reasons for that. In all sorts of ways we could consider the reasons for that, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but I am going to consider some principles and points which I think are pertinent, which is that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a destiny. It has a mission. It has a focus and a purpose. I believe it is God's restored church, Christ's restored church on the earth. And it has a divine destiny. And it is a powerful organization. And sometimes when we think about power, we think about worldly power. We think about influence and power according to wealth, according to military might, according to status, according to influence, in various ways. But the kind of power I'm really talking about is the power of truth, the power of beauty, the power of righteousness, the power of love, the power of service. And of course, this church has great financial resources. It has a huge impact all throughout the globe in many ways. It's a very impressive organization and does a great good, in my view, a great work in every nation, among every kindred, tongue and people. But it has power to do God's work in a most profound way. So doctrinally and historically, the reasons have to be that the church must be opposed by forces which are opposed to God, forces which are seeking to dethrone God, undermine truth, derail righteousness. And as one studies the scriptures through the lens of modern revelation in particular, through the light of revealed truth, through the lens of a living prophet, a living God, a speaking God, a revealing God, then we know that truth stands opposed. In order for something to be true, it's not simply that the God of heaven must endorse it. It must also be that the devil of hell must shout against it and rail against it. It must have divine endorsement from God and angels and holy men and women. But it also must have an attack, an assault, a persecution from the devil and his angels, his demonic angels, and those on earth who follow him. And it stands to reason that that makes sense. So it's not simply the testimony that God works wonders through this church. It is also the testimony that the devil fights against it and hates it and seeks to derail it. Those two things are a testimony to me, a witness, a confirmation, an unending declaration that the church is true. The church is true in the sense that it is a divine organization. It is a living church. the embodiment of truth, of doctrines and covenants and ordinances. The church has grown over time. It's a perfect organization in the sense that it's set up by a perfect God, but it's imperfect in the sense that it has imperfect humans in it, and we've spoken about this before. But it is nevertheless a divine organization, and in subsequent videos I'm going to talk more about how our church history is inspired, not just our church doctrine. But for the moment I want to really just focus on these two issues. The first one being this issue of persecution, opposition, attack, assault. These things are a sign, they are a valid evidence, they're a witness that the church is true. Because it is opposed so much, so greatly, so persistently, so frequently, so intensely, is a sign, is an indicator that it has something good and beautiful to bring to the world. If we think about it in self-development terms, anything that we seek to do that's useful, that's worthwhile in our lives is going to be opposed. If we determine to set a goal, there will be opposition against it. There will be inertia. There will be difficulty. There will be tendencies to be overcome. And that's organizationally as well as personally. I'm going to speak about the personal side in a moment, but the organizational side is the church as an organization. It's an organism. It's a living, growing thing. It's dynamic. It has to run off against opposition. It's like a stone rolling down a hill, like Daniel prophesied, and it has to be shaped, it has to be refined, it has to be molded. And so it has this opposition. It has divine power, but it also has to face obstacles. It has to overcome hurdles. It has to be tempted and tested and tried and triumph over all its foes. So there is a great ingenuity, a great genius, a great plan, a great purpose in God allowing the church to be tested and tried and afflicted and refined. And that test comes from both inside and outside. We can all, those who know about the church can relate numerous accounts of where the church as an organization has been vilified. And as I've said, sometimes that's from people outside who don't understand us, and sometimes it's from people inside, including in our own day and age when the internet is full of information about the church, which in my view is either false or it's true but it's misinterpreted, it's misunderstood, it's misrepresented in such a way that it's taken out of context or it's put in a bad light. And so the church has to be opposed in order for it to be successful, in order for it to shine forth as a light in a dark place. It has to show its strength. It has to develop its ability through challenge. So this idea of challenge must exist. Opposition must exist. The Book of Mormon teaches us that there is an opposition in all things, not just some things, in all things. And the church must be opposed. And the more it's opposed, the more it grows. So in contradistinction, oftentimes to situations where organizations are opposed, they might falter, they might flail under the opposition, under the pressure, under the intensity of the difficulty that they face. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints flourishes, grows, expands, magnifies, and enlarges itself, even though it's opposed. And sometimes, especially when it's opposed, that doesn't mean that there are never difficulties or casualties or mistakes or weaknesses, or it doesn't mean that the church is a perfectly run church, because it's by human design as well as divine design, and those two things link together, and that is not a difficulty for me, because the work of human beings is a growing, evolving, changing work. We are in process of time. We are work in process. And so the church as an organization has that developmental process that it has to follow. But it is interesting to me that the Book of Mormon and all the scriptures teach us that great opposition leads to great triumph. Greatness is born out of drudgery, born out of difficulty, born out of hardship, born out of the furnace of affliction. And Isaiah teaches us that the house of Israel is refined and chosen in the furnace of affliction. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been chosen in the furnace of affliction, refined, polished, channeled, magnified, and improved through that process. As an institution, we have faced all sorts of experiences through the years, through the last 200 years, and we continue to face those. And I believe those experiences help the church to become aware of its true destiny. And they are not the end game. The end game is that we will overcome those things. Unfortunately, there are casualties along the way, and they're not inevitable. It's not inevitable for people to hate the church or to misunderstand the church, but sometimes people do. And that's understandable. In this world of opposites, in this world of illusion, in this world of magic in the sense of sleight of hand, subtlety, cunning arts, where appearance and reality can often be confused. We can be beguiled, we can be tricked, we can be hoodwinked. Sometimes we have to learn wisdom by experience. We have to learn the difference between right and wrong, truth and error, through painful experience. So opposition can serve a useful process. It can push the church to a new level, to a higher standard, to a greater awareness of its purpose, of its role. Of course it's difficult. Of course it's crushing. Of course experience is a brutal teacher. But you learn things you would not otherwise know. Pain and suffering can educate us, can educate the church, can refine the church, can solidify and perfect the church. So, and there's many more things we could say on this. Those who have studied the history know that the church has been challenged in many very serious ways, and not just in the early days, but we could all relate experiences, and I could relate numerous experiences in my own life of my involvement in the church being a challenge, being difficult from an institutional point of view here in Ireland and in England and in other places. So I know that the church is opposed by many, but it's for God's purpose. He allows it to happen, and He makes the vessel strong. He makes the shoulders broad and strong and able to cope with the burden faced. So the church is up to the challenge. It's capable. It is the Lord's church endowed with His power. It's not immune from affliction or from trial or from sorrow, heartbreak and heartache, but it is able to surmount every obstacle, overcome every difficulty, ride out every storm. And whether those storms come in financial terms, spiritual terms, emotional terms, structural terms, economic terms, whatever terms they come in, the church has the capacity as an organization to overcome all the enemies arrayed against it, all the attacks and the assaults upon it. And the stories of Scripture culminating in the end times indicate to us that the church in these last days will not fall apart. It will not fall astray. It will not degenerate into apostasy. It will rise triumphant. It won't just stay at the same level. In fact, I believe the more we're opposed, the more the church will rise. The greater the opposition arrayed against the church, the greater the need and the capacity for the church to rise, to overcome, to transcend, to ascend. So this idea of challenge and persecution and difficulty brings about greatness for the church as an organization. We are forged out of a legacy of identity that comes from shared experience, grounded in overcoming the afflictions of the past, learning the lessons of hardship, learning patience, long-suffering, mercy, forgiveness, strength of character, resilience, determination, persistence, endurance. These are not just slogans. These are the very qualities and the attributes that the church must develop and has developed under the weight of difficulty. And so difficulty is not going to destroy us. The phrase is often said, that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And that may be true or it may be false depending on our response to it. But as a church and as an organization, organizations are very often defined by the pressures they face and how they respond to them. And organizations behave in certain ways. Sometimes they behave really well and sometimes they behave poorly. And all organizations are subject to the powers and the forces of this mortal world, to natural disasters, to social upheavals, and to all sorts of challenges that come about in this natural fallen world, this world of affliction. So I'm grateful to belong to a church that is able to ride out the storm, that is like a ship heading towards port, and in stormy weather, in windy weather, is able to sail. And sometimes that requires great effort, great hard work, vision, foresight, and sometimes there are enemies amongst us. There are mutineers, there are people jumping overboard, and there are people trying to burn the ship to the ground, and all sorts of things. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is able to withstand every and any challenge placed against it. And I really believe that. I believe we've seen that in 200 years, and I don't think we're going to recoil from that challenge. We're not going to give up. We've come this far, and we have a work to do. We have a distance still to travel to get to the promised land. So I believe we're going to make that journey. I know we're going to make that journey. Second part of what I wanted to talk about was individual challenge. So as individuals and as families, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a challenge for us. And I mean that challenge in the best possible sense. It has an invitation to us. It has a call to rise, to ascend, to be transformed. We as individuals need a challenge. We need an adventure to pursue. We need a goal, a cause to believe in, a standard to erect, a value to espouse. We need something that will push us out of our comfort zone, out of the mire, into a gaze on eternal things. We need to, instead of looking at the dirt, look to the stars, look to the skies. And that's great symbolism. As we look to the sky, we look to the stars, we look to the sun, we look to the moon, we look heavenward and upward. We climb the mountain. And in personal self-development terms, again, we've alluded this in relationship to the church, and it's the same with individuals and families and all societies of people, is that we as individuals need a target to reach for. We need a goal to aim for. We need a plan to strive for. We need a divine purpose, a divine ambition, something to propel us forward with momentum, as our prophet has spoken about, spiritual momentum. We need to have an upward reach, a heavenly vision, a divine adventure, a quest, a heavenly quest to propel us forward. And I believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints welcomes us as we are, but invites us and challenges us to become something bigger and better than we already are. It has the ability to transform us in magnificent, marvelous, powerful ways. And I would encourage all of us to think about the ways in which the church challenges us. It commends us for our efforts. It sees the value in us. And I believe no organization is better at teaching us that we are children of God, that we are endowed in the image and likeness of God. We are spiritual offspring, sons and daughters of a king. We have a divine birthright, nature, identity, and destiny. And that's stupendous. That's powerful. That's momentous. If we believe that we are literally the children of a heavenly king, then we have a vision. We have an antidote to depression. We have a goal. We know we have a latent capacity that can be developed into something marvelous, something great. And that marvel only unfolds itself with time, with effort, with experience, with education, with striving. Like the chicken that breaks out of the egg, like the butterfly that comes out of the chrysalis. Like all things in life that emerge, that develop, that grow, that blossom, like the seed that breaks through the dirt. All of these things signify that upward reach, that outward stretching. And the gospel challenges us. The church invites us to lead, to teach, to speak, to bless, to serve, to manage, to organize, to become better at time management, to become better in our relationships with other people, become better in having a vision for our lives, for our education, for our economic well-being, for our social acuity, for our mental development. All of these things are true, that the The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in my experience, has propelled me forward in a way nothing else could have. It's given me an insight, a way out of a poverty mindset, a way out of a scarcity mindset, a way out of negativity, revenge, hatred, bitterness, vengeance, jealousy, a way to look beyond the obvious, to see beyond the circumstance, to see beyond the storm, to focus on Jesus Christ and his holy prophets, to focus on Zion, the mountaintop, the promised land, the great vision that lies before us if we just open our eyes and catch the vision of what's possible. So the gospel challenges us, and that word is used intentionally because it doesn't ask us to remain in comfort zones. We're not called to be comfortable. We're not called to be covered with a cloak of convenience. We are called to be stretched. And that means breaking out, breaking free, breaking forth. It means moving up, reimagining our possibilities, re-envisioning our potential, catching the vision of who we really are. And that incremental growth unfolds over time. It's something that has to be revealed to us line upon line, precept upon precept, as we grow more, as we learn more, as we hearken more. And so the gospel and church does that for us, and it's done that for me, and I believe and I hope it's done that for you. So the church is a church of challenge. It invites us to be challenged. It remains beautiful in our lives as we come onto this challenge. It remains fresh and up to date and current. It's old, but it's new. It's new and it's everlasting. It's the same and yet it's fresh. It changes in the sense that our lives change. We grow and develop. And so spiritually, emotionally, socially, mentally, physically, the church invites us to rise, to ascend. And that comes with opposition. It comes with difficulty. It comes with setbacks. It comes with doubts and fears that need to be overcome. It comes sometimes in the form of having to overcome our weaknesses around others, or our inhibitions, or our shyness, or our fears, or laziness, or procrastination, or inadequacy, or uncertainty, our inability to make decisions, or our lack of confidence, a lack of awareness, a lack of social propriety, all the things that we might have imbibed from our upbringing or the things around us. I believe the church can help us out of that. It can make us a better version of ourselves. And I know it's done that for me, and I look forward to becoming yet a better version of myself. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a revelatory church. It is a transformative church. It is a beautiful church. It is a blessed church. It's changed my life in a magnanimous way, a bounteous way, an abundant way. And I believe the best is yet to come. I worry about where my life would be if it wasn't for the church. But the church has prospered me in so many ways, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. It's made me better at relating with other people. It's made me smarter as a person. It's made me more hardworking, more diligent, more ambitious in a righteous way. It's made me kinder, wiser, more compassionate, more gentle, more long-suffering. It's also given me bravery and courage to stand up for principle, honesty, truthfulness, sobriety, and sincerity. It's given me a sense of wisdom, discernment, knowledge, capacity to lead and to share and to serve. So great are the blessings of this church, but that all comes with challenge. It comes with paying a price. It comes with overcoming opposition. It comes with doing hard things, sometimes doing things we don't really want to do, or having to repetitiously seek to overcome a weakness again and again and again until we get it right, until we allow the Lord to help us, to minister to us, to prosper us. The church allows us to develop great leadership skills, great managerial skills, great confidence, great self-worth, self-belief, self-hope. And yes, of course, when you're dealing with other people, the church can be a challenge. But that is par for the course. Elder Maxwell used to say, Elder Maxwell of the 12, that we are each other's clinical material. And we work on each other. We labor with each other with our weaknesses and our foibles and our mistakes and our errors in order to grow, in order to become more advanced. And we are here to become something. We're not here simply to pass through life, but for life to pass through us. We're not simply to experience, but for that experience to educate us, to transform us. We often say that life is a school or life is a test, but we're not always so willing to admit the implications of that statement, which is that if life is a test, if it is a school, then sometimes those tests are going to be hard. There's going to be discomfort. There's going to be challenge. We're going to have to push ourselves to do hard things. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be difficult circumstances. Sometimes we'd rather be on the beach, but we need to study. Sometimes the weather is tough, but we still need to go out into the rain and go to school. We still have assignments to make, even though we'd rather watch TV. We've got assignments to perform. So I'm grateful for the church. I'm grateful that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the organized method for bringing individuals into a situation where they can become something different, something better than what they were before. And that's the process of life. It is a change-based process, an improvement process. So we come the way we are, but we don't stay the way we are. We are elevated to a different place, a different way of thinking, a different mental and spiritual frame of reference, a different paradigm, a map and plan and perspective of seeing the world. And that's what the church does for us. So the word challenge is key. The church both challenges us individually, and it is challenged as an organization by the individuals that belong to it and by people outside of it. The church is a growing, evolving thing, but I am deeply and humbly grateful for my membership in the church. I think often of the verses in the Book of Mormon that talk about the great and spacious building, where some in the building, all in the building, were pointing the finger of scorn at those at the Tree of Life, and they were mocking them, in the attitude of mocking them, laughing at them, jeering them, sniggering at them, as if to say, you're a fool, you're blind, you're childish, you're gullible, your religion is foolish or untrue, or why don't you have some fun, why don't you live your life? My response would be, I love being at the Tree of Life. It gives me bounty. It gives me joy. It gives me all the worthwhile experience I could ever need. It gives me growth. I love to sing. I love to dance. I love to walk. I love to swim. I love to work. I love to serve. I love to lead and to speak and to teach. And 1,000 other things, to read and to educate myself and to listen to people and achieve things and make a contribution and overcome difficulties and solve problems, and so many other things I've learned to do because of the gospel and church. So I bear my humble testimony that this is God's church on the earth, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is specially arranged to bring celestial life to the people. This is not just another church, and it's not just a good organization. It doesn't just exist to help and perform good works and do humanitarian service. It actually exists to make us into the best possible version of ourselves. So there's no greater imaginings than we could have than the church gives us, in my view. We might talk about human beings living like advanced robots with the capacity to live for millions of years with great superpowers. We might think of many imaginary things, but the gospel actually gives us all that and more, gives us far more. It gives us the opportunity to live an immortal life with a quality that is endless joy, endless growth, endless development, endless progress with our families, with our friends, in light and truth and beauty and joy forever. Not without challenge, not without tears, not without heartbreak, but heartbreak and joy go together. Bitter and sweet are written into the very nature of existence. We must have the bitter if we are to have the sweet. We must have pain if we are to understand pleasure. We must have sorrow if we are to understand joy and rejoicing. So the church exists to bless lives, to bless souls, not in an easy way, not in a comfortable way, not always in a convenient way. But that doesn't mean that the church doesn't give us comfort. It doesn't mean that the church doesn't bless us or assure us or reassure us or give us love and bounteous, abundant joy, because it does. So no one ought to assume that the church is just hard work, it's just drudgery. It's, in my experience, it's not that. It's joy, it's hope, It is hard, but it's a righteous exhaustion. I'm so grateful to belong to this church, and I hope and pray it will bless your life and bless the lives of your families and friends. I so teach, I so testify. Be open to the challenge. Be up for the challenge. You can do this. You can do all that God asks of you to do. All that he requires of you is to keep his commandments. You can do that. There is no commandment that is too hard for you to live with his divine help. There is no call that you are given that you cannot magnify with his help. There is no task you cannot perform with his mighty power. Whatever you are called upon to do, you can do it. Educationally, spiritually, financially, career-wise, relationship-wise, you can do it with his power. His church will help you. It will equip you. It will magnify you and your friends and your family and your loved ones on both sides of the veil, by the way, not just this side but the other side, because the church is operational on the other side, and it's helping all the people on the other side who will listen to it, to its missionaries, to its servants, to its representatives. It is helping them to learn the very same principles and powers and truths that we are learning in this mortal sphere. So the gospel and church is eternal. It will bless lives. I'm so grateful to belong to it. Let's be challenged. Let's have the courage to face the challenge, to rise to the challenge, to love the challenge, to seek it out. Believe it. Believe that we can do something marvelous, that we can do something wonderful, that we are potentially great. Have a blessed day, and I will talk to you again soon.